Whoa, 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 whoa! What is up, black people? What's up, everybody? I hope everything is amazing for you all, as always. I'm your host, the Honorable OctaviusHaye, and this is the WACCast podcast. So with that being said, let's talk whack to 'em. It seems Joe Budden is causing all the drama this week. Joe decided to go to Savon and Alex's podcast, the Need to Know podcast, and if you didn't know, Savon and Alex worked for Joe at one time at the Joe Budden podcast, behind the scenes stuff. So, of course, since they're all aware of each other, they work together, they brought up Rory and Mal and them breaking up. And Savon pretty much said that to him, that was like the best era of the Joe Budden podcast. And he breaks the podcast down in phases. And he said that was like phase 3 to phase 4, something like, I don't know, doing some Marvel movie stuff. But, Joe started, giving his normal stuff about Rory and Mal and Savon and Alex. They were all giving their stories, and they were talking about the infamous meeting that they all had when they were acting like disgruntled employees, complaining about the job. Now, Rory and Mal heard this, and what they took out of it, I believe, is they thought that Savon and Alex had Joe Budden on there to diss them. Because Rory and Mal, they did like a little special like Patreon episode or whatever. You had to pay like $20 for it. And they discussed the podcast. Rory and Mal pretty much called Savon and Alex liars. They were saying that they were talking about they were disgruntled and underpaid. They were working hard and underpaid. And they didn't understand why they were doing all these episodes and the stuff wasn't clicking. So from Rory and Mal's perspective, they said that no, Savon and Alex came to talk to us. We went over here just trying to complain about stuff. And, they were saying some disrespectful things. Rory was saying he don't know Alex's name. He was still calling him, what they call him on Joe Budden podcast, the Scream Man or something like that. He was just still calling him by that nickname. He didn't know Alex's actual name. And Savon said that, Mal said that Savon was a ball guzzler because he said on the podcast with Joe, Savon was saying that Joe Budden had him staying at the Four Seasons Hotel, and that was good. And just they got real nasty with it. Now, like I said, I think that from their perspective, they thought that Joe Budden was on there to down them. Now, Savon and Alex, they did respond on their podcast, Need to Know podcast, and they just pretty much broke down that they were talking about themselves a lot, and they never accused Rory and Mal of saying anything that they didn't say, and that the conversation could have been held a little better. And my take on it, that's true. Now, and I think Savon and Alex even said this on their podcast, Rory and Mal were discussed, so Rory and Mal can talk about that. But I think it's how you talk about that, and I think that if you're going to be critical of somebody's take on what happened in the situation, maybe you should hear the whole take, because Rory and Mal both admit they saw clips. They didn't see the whole interview, because if they had seen the whole interview with Joe, they would have seen that Savon was defending him a lot, and he was actually even pushing back at Joe and challenging Joe on some things and questioning some of Joe's decisions in the whole breakup of the team. So it wasn't just like bashing Rory and Mal, but I think those clips kind of got to them, and Rory and Mal felt like they had to respond and felt like they had to call out Savon and Alex, because to them they thought they were attacking him. Now, an interesting thing we learned is, because I think Mal said that people who mess with Joe don't really fool with them no more. Savon has been, supporting them the whole way, and even wanted Rory and Mal on his show. Savon said he went to Rory's, album listening party, and he's been to a couple things with them. He's always been supportive and respectful. And so I think that's what hurt him or upset him the most, is that he's been so respectful and he has been so supportive, and they don't even think to really have a reach out conversation. I think him and Mal did. I think Savon and Rory had a conversation before Rory and Mal did their podcast going off on them, but I guess the conversation wasn't that good since Rory and Mal still went off on them. It's funny. Joe gets in there, talks a little stuff, backs on up, and all the other people just going at each other, and Joe's out of the fight. Or so he thought, because while he wasn't in that fight, Joe Budden had another fight because some dude stepped to him at a script club. I was recording him. Joe was with some females. I don't think it was his girlfriend, but he was with some females. And man, I'm telling you right now, Joe Budden said that first he's the perfect gentleman. So he walks the girls into the club, and I get trying to get away from these dudes, and I guess it just proceeded to go on. And he was with a gang. The guy who was agitated Joe was a gang of dudes, but I guess none of them wanted to get involved because Joe said it was a one-on-one. The dude snuck him with a punch. Joe said, all right, I got you. They about to go. But the floor was slippery. The bottles had been popped. The champagne liquor all over the floor. So they started slipping and sliding like they some ice skaters or something. I'm like, whoa. They fall. Joe said he fall to the ground, but he grabbed that nigga and fall with him. And they hugging him. And Joe was hugging that nigga because he's not about to let him go. So dude just started wailing on him. At that point, the dude's friends pull him up off of him. And allegedly, it de-escalates from there. People were saying Joe got his jaw broke, all type of stuff. Joe, he did the classic, go online, show my face so everybody see I'm okay, ain't got no scratches on me, ain't got no marks on me. I don't know if Joe's counting of the events is accurate, but Joe just seemed fine. He was doing podcasts, talking about this incident. Didn't seem like he had nothing on him, nothing bad. Maybe a little mark, they put some makeup on, I don't know. But I couldn't really see nothing that would be like severe damage. So sounded to me like it was just a little quick drunk thing. I don't know if Joe drinking, but maybe the other dude was, and it kind of turned into nothing. But Joe was kind of insinuating that the dude was sent for him, and he was saying 0 for 2, which made a lot of people wonder if it was Taxstone's guy that Joe got into the altercation with, because we know that Budden has fought one of Taxstone's guys before, and Joe recently spit some hot bars on Taxstone after Taxstone had been talking trash about Joe for like a while now. Joe he sunned him a little bit. Tax is in prison. He ain't got nothing else to do, so he probably still want revenge for that and asking people to handle that for him. I don't know. These are all accusations. Joe seems to be alluding to that, but who knows? Joe probably don't even know for sure himself. Maybe he just know that they know each other. I don't know. But the streets be talking, so you never know, right? But yeah, of course, Joe Budden is always going to make sure he in the news. And of course, if Joe Budden's in the news, he always going to use it for content, because with Joe, it is COE, content over everything. What y'all think about this whole situation with Rory and Mal, Savon and Alex? Do you think that it was just a misunderstanding? Do you think that was ill intent from Savon and Alex? Do you think that Rory and Mal overreacted and that they should apologize? And as far as Joe, man, what's up? What you think of Joe? You think Joe's story is right, that it was much ado about nothing? The dude got one punch off and they both slipped? Or do you think Joe really got the hands put on him and is trying to give a better version that makes him look better? Jeezy put out an interesting little video where he's talking with Nia Long, and it's kind of like a counseling session, but I guess, I don't know if Nia Long has any degrees or anything in that. I guess it was just somebody for him to open up to. And he posted this on YouTube, and yeah, Jeezy is talking about his life, some of his struggles. He's talking about his relationship with his mother, how it was bad. He talked about how at one point in his life, I think he was in like the Navy or Marines or something like that, and he was on a boat, and he was like a teenager, and he wanted so badly not to go home that he thought about jumping off into the water just because he didn't want to go home. Our relationship with his mom, she's very temperamental, and he says that might have been because of how she was raised. Jeezy says that might have been because of how his mother was raised, that Jeezy felt like she couldn't give love to him. So crazy, because at one point he talking about she pulls a gun out on him. Jeezy's mother pulls a gun out on him and tells him she'd take him out the world. He do what she said, or she could take him out this world or something like that, and that made him leave home. And he was only like 13 years old. So really, really tough stuff. Jeezy talks about, having to bury a lot of people. He talk about, what does he talk about? He talks about feeling like he's never had complete love without somebody wanting something. He talks about holding on to the hurt of the people hurting him that he loved and tried to do stuff for. He talks about being on tour, feeling good, top of the world, got a good album out, performing for the 30,000 people, and he get locked up. And he say he stayed in jail till everybody else got out. $10 million he had to put on everybody's books to get them out. So just a fascinating story. I think everybody should go look at it. I see a man who is hurt, but I see a man who, and he says as well, is healing and is learning to do better. And Jeezy even talked about he meditates. Like, whoever thought that Jeezy, the snowman, be over here meditating, but he does. He meditates. He said he even saw a vision of his mother, and he apologized to her for not loving her the way he should have at her passing. And I guess because he still felt so much resentment, he didn't mourn her and he felt like he should have mourned her more, because no matter what she did in his life, she was his mother, and he knows that she did love him, and he loves her. So just, really touching stuff. Him and Nia Long, she was, giving a little bit of her 2 cents too, but it was more so about Jeezy talking about himself. He did a beautiful thing about talking about men and women and how we need to come together and work with each other, kind of expressing, Nia Long was kind of expressing the women's side of things, how they take a relationship, what they want, and Jeezy was kind of expressing from the men's side of things. One of the things Jeezy was saying is like, men don't really have the opportunity to be vulnerable. Women want you to be strong, and it's kind of when you got to be on that get up and go type of mentality to get something in this world. So it's hard for you to hold it back. And so and Jeezy was like, that's why we need our women to be there for us, because women more nurturing. And Nia Long was like, we need the men to step up, be more like leaders, and women don't want to always have to be tough. We want to be feminine, and there's a beautiful conversation between two grown adults. Now, of course, it's headline with Jeezy right now. He's currently going through a divorce with Jeannie Mai, and Nia Long just, it felt like throughout the whole interview Jeezy was alluding to her, but finally Nia Long just asked him, what's going on with the divorce. And Jeezy, he didn't really go into detail, but what he said was, when somebody doesn't want to work on making things better, when somebody doesn't want to work on healing the relationship, and they don't feel like they have to change or do anything, then that you gotta go. And that's a topic they had talked about earlier too, so he just brought it back to that. But basically Jeezy's saying, Jeannie Mai didn't really feel like she needed to work on anything. She just wanted to stay how she was and wasn't trying to meet Jeezy nowhere. And so Jeezy said, hey, look, I want this relationship. I want to be married. I want to stay together. I want our family. But if you're not going to try to work on this with me, kind of shows me you don't respect me, and I'm gone. And hey, more power to him. And look, I always say, I don't like divorce. I say I don't believe in divorce. I believe in divorce. I don't like divorce. But if it eventually, if it gets to the point where there's no other options, you either going to get divorced or you're going to stay with this person that make you miserable. And you might become more of a miserable person. And yeah, it's better to have children in a 2-family household, but what's not good is having children in a 2-family household with very negative parents, because that's going to create a very toxic environment that will negatively impact the child. So big ups to Jeezy for, being able to recognize that and making that decision. I know that couldn't have been an easy one. And Jeezy even said he heard about it, but he felt like it was the right thing to do. And also big up to Jeezy just for expressing himself, being vulnerable and giving his life and giving it to us, the fans, and letting us understand him, man. Shout out to Jeezy, man. Like I said, a lot of growth, a lot of maturity in that man. And, whatever he does next, I want the best for him. And I also want the best for Jeannie Mai, too, because regardless of whatever she did or didn't do, we don't know. She's still a person. And I'm sure she didn't want to lose her family. So this is hard for everybody. What y'all think, man? What y'all think about that interview with Jeezy? Was y'all into it? Did you get any type of motivation from it? Was it inspiring? Was it nice to know a little bit more about him? Now, what happened, Akaveli? You was out here talking that tough talk. Now, you switching up. Now, if y'all don't know, Akademiks, he had Troy Ave and WACC 100 on his podcast. They was just talking about a lot of stuff. One of the topics that came up, though, was the fight that's supposed to happen between DJ Akademiks and Saucy Santana. Now, WACC 100 ended up calling a dude he know that, part of the LGBTQ and all the other stuff community, and pretty much they were saying that Act can't fight Saucy Santana, because if Act fights Saucy Santana, they're gonna say it's a hate crime and Act's being homophobic, but they're gonna get somebody who's also, gay, I don't know what's the right term to say, to fight Saucy Santana. And Act was saying, yes, somebody else gotta fight him, because if I fight him, it's a hate crime. And to me, I'm like, come on, that's cap. Everybody knows that's a grown man. And he challenged you. You can fight him, Akademiks. Saucy Santana challenged you. You remember that. So you can fight him. Nobody's going to say nothing crazy. If anything, everybody want to see it. And honestly, I'm going to say again, sorry, my money's on Saucy probably winning that. Maybe I got some hands. I don't know. But I would be surprised. I'll say that. But yeah, but Act, you can't do that. You can't, get a fight to somebody else. Nah. That's your issue. That's your problem with that man. You gotta go one-on-one, put the gloves on like you was talking last week, Akademiks, when you was being saucy, no pun intended. And you gotta go ahead and step to that man, because he challenged you. He ain't challenged nobody in your crew. He challenged you. He said he ain't going to no headquarters. He said he want to fight you in them streets. You say you want to fight in a ring. I gotta compromise, get a ring and put it in the streets. Y'all can box there. Act, can't let this dude punk you, right? You said you Jamaican. right? I'm Jamaican too, and I'm telling you, as a fellow Jamaican, you can't let this man punk you like the Akademiks. You gotta fight. You gotta stand up. You can't be hiding behind nobody else. Don't have WACC 100 calling the booty goons. Nah, you handle them. WACC, tell the booty goons to go home. Akademiks, you get in that ring and you deal with what you said you was gonna do. And if you get the beat, yes, Act, we are gonna laugh at you. We're gonna talk about you. The whole world's gonna talk about you. Everybody gonna always bring up, shut up, Saucy, before I get Saucy Santana, or Saucy Santana whooped you, or whatever. Now, hopefully, Saucy Santana don't do what he said he was gonna do, because then that's gonna be a problem. And you should press charges if he do act, because that's crime. And you're a civilian, like you always say, so it's okay to talk to the police and cooperate. You should definitely press charges if Saucy Santana does that to you. But nah, out here with that nonsense. You said you're gonna put the hands on him. You gotta step up, Akademiks. You gotta put the hands on him. That's it. Point blank. Period. As the city girls would say. It's funny it's all this started because of him. What y'all think, man? I think that Act got a point. He can't fight Saucy, because if he fights Saucy, it's gonna look homophobic and be a hate crime. And I think that's cap. Akademiks just trying to look for an excuse to get out of it. So that's the show. Thank you all so much for tuning in and taking in this WACC wisdom, and hope that you come back next week to get a little bit more from me. If you haven't already, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you are notified every time I'm dropping new content on the channel if you're listening on YouTube. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify, please make sure to like, follow, review, comment, anything to help us on those platforms as well. With all that being said, this is the WACCast podcast, and I am whacking off.
It's the WACCast podcast. Yeah.
Talk whack to me. Talk whack to me.
Yeah.
Talk whack to me. Talk whack to me.
It's the WACCast podcast. Yeah.
Talk whack to me. Talk whack to me.
Yeah.
Talk whack to me. Talk whack to me.